Angela. Hey, welcome everybody. This is Spin Legal, and we're here every Tuesday evening, 6 o'clock. And tonight we're covering a slightly different topic. Not all necessarily legal, but they have legal implications for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and if you need to contact Invictus Legal, you can do so on at 905-688-5598. Email Angela with Angela@weareinvictus.legal, or myself using Peter@weareinvictus.legal. Our website is, of course, weareinvictus.legal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the question that we have for today is about understanding Ontario's basic social benefit net.
Yeah,
And this is
basic as well as federal. Like some benefits are federal.
There's a few federal, but most of these are provided under Ontario's auspices, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's start off with the concept of what a social safety net is, right? Because I think that has to be understood. These programs that exist because every once in a while, one in a few people have problems,
Mm-hmm.
right? And by having these social programs, they're a collection of government programs and services that are designed to protect the most needy of people within our society from suffering the most financial hardship. And yet, when you think about what we have with these programs, we still have homeless people on the streets in Ontario.
Oh, there's lots.
Right. So there's a lot of abilities to support people through multiple sources of income. And, at the end of the day, it's not necessarily the end for you if you have a disability.
Yeah, depending on what you've done before. And unfortunately, people who've had a disability who just happen to have a high-paying job before, these are the ones that are the lucky ones. But if you have a disability and you had it when you were very young, then you have to start relying on some of the less.
Yeah, I'm surprised at how many young people there are that actually suffer long-term disabilities.
Yep, it's getting more and more common. And I don't think, like, some people are out there saying that, oh, everybody wants to go on disability because they don't want to work. And that's not necessarily true. It's very hard to get on disability.
Yeah. Well, some of the people that we've had in our office who are on disability or are fighting for their disability check, the people who are saying, hey, I want to be out there, driving or working in a factory. I love the work, but every time I do it, I suffer pain.
I suffer, and this is the thing that people need to put forward and understand that it may be pain, it may be that they have emotional problems. There's all kinds of types of mental health disorders where people cannot work, or they may think they can work, but maybe they can do another type of job that they won't be dealing with people. Right?
Okay.
Accommodations where you find them a job, like say working in the warehouse or working where you're delivering things as opposed to interacting with customers. Like there's a lot of different types of that, but if they even can't do that, because sometimes people with some very severe disabilities may not even be able to do that.
Yeah. Okay, so the first category of these, I think, is Ontario Works. Ontario Works is a social assistance program known as OW, affectionately as OW. It's for temporary financial assistance to individuals and families who are experiencing financial hardship and have limited assets and income. How come when I went blind and I went to the doctor and the doctor said, yes, it's temporary. How come I didn't get an AOW support?
Got a working spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
if you're both unemployed, you'd be able to get it.
Yeah. Because essentially I lost, all of my income.
And you wouldn't want to. And you wouldn't want to be on that either.
No, I didn't want to be on anything. I just had needs that, hey, in
You
the
don't
next
have the
3,
freedom. You don't
yeah,
have the freedom to make money or to get off ODW
yeah.
when you get on it.
Well, the point being is I had the need to be able to get through the next few months, pay the bills, whilst I was, suffering the situation that I was going through.
Because a family, like if you were together with a family, like you'd get less than $1,000 a month.
Mm.
That's for everything.
Yeah, and how can you survive on that? Anyway, that's
Nobody.
another question
That's
entirely.
why. Like, look outside. Look at the tent cities.
Yeah.
That answers your question.
So, and the worst of this is I couldn't even apply for EI at that point.
Depends on like your hours and a bunch of things.
No, I couldn't apply for EI because as a self-employed person, there was no EI payments made for us.
Okay, if you didn't pay into it, you
Yeah.
can't get out of
Yeah.
it. Although some self-employed do pay into EI because they do have a program for self-employed.
Yeah. Yeah, but they never made that. That wasn't.
Usually don't account self-employed.
Yeah, that's a different matter entirely. Yeah. Okay. So the next one down on our list, and they're not in any particular order, other than kind of I guess the way that they popped up when I was doing the research on this. Ontario Disability Support Program. So this is a permanent disability support system, isn't it?
Yeah. Ontario Disability Support Program isn't a permanent program, but you have to be disabled to a substantial extent.
Yes, sorry. I used the wrong words. I meant that you have to be permanently disabled in order to
And it doesn't
get
necessarily mean, but you have to be long term. It's not like you
yeah,
broke
it's not like
you recover in a couple months.
Yeah, it's not like I'm recovering in a year or so.
Yeah, but you do have to be disabled for at least a year, and it has to be something that's ongoing. Okay, and it could go. You could recover, and they do have some people who get medical reviews at a certain point where they recover, and then they can go back to work. And some people just go back to work and tell ODSP they don't need them anymore.
Okay.
But the problem is you have to almost go big or go home if you're going to be getting off ODSP. You have to get a job that's going to pay you well and be a stable job that's going to last you.
Okay.
Although you do have a rapid reinstatement process if that job doesn't work out.
Okay, so what you get in this is you get monthly income support, prescription drug coverage, dental benefits in some instances, vision care in some instances, medical transportation assistance, particularly if you've got hospital treatments that you need to go for, and employment support services. I think there were probably a few other things, but I'm trying to hit just the basics there.
Yeah, those are just the basics. They also have things like where people can go through ODSP and get referrals to a certain amount of counseling. They might cover that. There is some special discretionary benefits you can apply to too, where ODSP can help you access. Like say if you need something like dentures, but now the Canada Dental Plan actually will cover dentures.
Well, what happens is prescription drug coverage. There's limitations on that, aren't there? I believe.
Well, all the prescription drug coverages, they cover most of the basic drugs for basic things.
If you were to, the example that I came across one time, and I don't know how true or not it is. One person said, "Yeah, I can't get, I need to take 4 drugs. 3 out of the 4 drugs cost $10 a month each, and the 4th drug is like $300 a month, and it means I don't get it on ODSP."
Not necessarily. They might cover it on ODSP, depending on the drug.
Hmm. Oh,
And
yeah,
you have to prescribe them also for the purposes for which the drug is prescribed. Because, for example, people on ODSP can get Ozempic, okay, but it has to be prescribed for diabetes-related reasons.
yeah,
So other people who are not on ODSP, they can get prescribed for weight loss, and you can't get it for weight loss. You can't get coverage for that.
yeah, okay,
Like
and that's
some private plans might cover it for weight loss. I don't know.
yeah, and that's a good example because
Yeah.
weight loss, the weight loss is clearly Ozempic was designed as a thing for people with diabetes. The fact that it also has secondary use in terms of weight loss is so ODSP will say one is okay, the other is not.
Hmm.
and and no amount of but she gets it and she's diabetic, but you won't give it to me is irrelevant.
Hmm. Yeah,
uh,
it's irrelevant. And they have certain things that they will accept it for. And the doctor sometimes has to fill out a form to confirm that the person is taking it for the right reasons.
well, I would imagine that all the prescriptions would have to be approved.
Yeah, they would have to be approved. And then same as if somebody started taking some cancer drugs. And even private coverage gets pretty picky, and they would want to make sure you're not getting into something extremely experimental. Right? But the definition of experimental varies from place to place.
Really? Okay. So I
United
could
States, it's even worse.
so in what in one are you talking about different countries or are you
Yeah,
talking
in the
about
U.S., it's even worse. Where like if you're on the healthcare plan and they will cover
yeah,
your drugs, but if it's something experimental, it could be a problem. Okay?
okay.
There are things that could be considered experimental when they aren't.
You what you're saying here, if I'm hearing you correctly, is a drug may well be approved in the US, but be considered too experimental for Ontario use, and similarly, another drug could be created in Norway, and again considered too experimental for Ontario use.
Yeah, but generally, they tend to support most effective drugs because one of the things that they try to do is they want to work with drugs that are determined to be effective and safe.
Okay.
Okay, so they're very careful with that kind of thing. It goes through the Ministry of Health. Ministry of Health assigns it a number, and then they go through a system, and then each of the provinces will do a review, okay, about which drugs they would cover. And there's certain things that they would do. Generally, if a drug is effective and it's been seen to be effective, they just don't want to give you something that's pay for a lot of money for a drug that may be only effective in 10% of the people that use it.
Hmm.
Okay, so
Okay, so to take the Ozempic example, and I know I'm labouring a point here, but to take that Ozempic example, so for example, if my doctor is saying to me that, hey Peter, you need to lose 100 pounds desperately in order to save your life, and I'm on ODSP. But the best, most effective drug to do that is Ozempic.
yeah, and
They,
they may try Ozempic, but they would also test you to see if you have any other illnesses that obesity might be causing. Okay, so they would have to do a full medical scan of you.
okay, okay. So it's not just taking my doctor's word for it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's taking a more basic.
but it's a lot less onerous than the insurance companies do, because
Yeah,
they have a drug review program in Ontario where they appoint
yeah.
people to sit on these boards and they review this. Okay, and
Okay,
these are people who know about these studies and drugs and stuff.
okay. All right. Okay. Well, let's move on to our next one, which is Canada Pension Plan Disability Benefits. This
And
is
this
a
is federal.
federal
If you pay
program.
the CPP and you work, you pay into the CPP program. So there's two parts to CPP. One is Canada Pension Disability, and the other is Canada Pension Retirement Benefits. So Canada Pension Disability benefits can be collected at any age up to the age of 65. And as long as you paid enough into it, you can draw out of it. And you can draw out of it depending on how much you paid into it.
Yeah. So, so if you've worked, essentially the way I'm hearing what you've just said, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that if I've been in the country long enough and I paid my CPP through my employer, I may or may not get CPP disability benefits as a result of my disability at some point in my life.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, and for Canada Pension Plan Disability, that one you have to have a disability that's known to be permanent or terminal.
Yeah, that one is fairly clear because the CPP disability plan, essentially what you've got is a degenerative type of disease that means that you may be fit enough to walk today, but in 15 years you're degenerating. You're degenerating year after year after year.
And then when they've done court cases on it, it doesn't mean that you're unfit to work at all. Like you couldn't lift a finger, like you have to be so disabled you couldn't even lift a finger for 2 minutes. Okay? That has to be in a way that you're not consistently able to earn substantially gainful employment.
So in other words, what you're telling me from there, what I'm hearing from there, is I may be fully fit to go out to work this week, especially since it's nicely 25 degrees outside, and I can work. I've got mobility, and maybe my knee isn't giving me kind of explosive pain on a day-to-day basis. So on today I can work, this week I can work, but in the next 6 weeks I might not be able to work.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
So this is one of the things that some people do that, and then if you apply for CPP and get it, you're more likely to get your provincial benefit to top it off if you're not getting enough money to match that budget.
So I would get CPP and I'd get ODSP to accompany.
Yeah. Okay. So say you can get $800 a month for CPP, but you're entitled to 1408, so you get the balance of that through ODSP. Okay. And then you'll also get your drug coverage and everything else that ODSP gives you, but CPP doesn't.
Okay. All right. So CPP doesn't give you any of that kind of drug coverage at all?
No. You just pay the benefits. And the nice thing about CPP benefits, so if you're getting $800 a month and your spouse earns $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year, they don't care.
Oh, okay.
It's personal. It's your earnings alone.
Okay. So whilst in that situation, I might be getting CPP benefits. My spouse could be earning, let's say, the $100,000 a year. CPP doesn't stop me from earning my benefits, but ODSP might.
Yeah. Right. ODSP might. They're limited. You can earn up to $1,000 a month, and then it's clawed back 75% yourself.
Yeah.
And if your spouse works, they make $200 a month, and it's clawed back 50%. And then by the time your husband or wife is working at a certain level, depending on how many kids you have too, and how many in your benefit unit and where you live, there could be issues where you might not be eligible for ODSP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You might not be eligible for CPP.
No, CPP pays you anyway.
Yeah.
CPP is
but your ODSP would
because you earned it, you paid into it. ODSP is like from your tax revenue for people who can't get any other form of private insurance or disability.
Essentially, though, what it sounds like with that scenario is if I were on CPP and my wife were on a good salary, $100,000 type, for the example you used, the obvious thing is we wouldn't even bother applying for ODSP.
Yeah, you wouldn't probably get it. You wouldn't get it, okay? Because ODSP is income-listed and CPP isn't.
Yeah.
Okay? Like you can have income from non-earnable stuff, like you can have housing, like you could be a landlord and collect it. Okay? But if you start working, you can earn something. I think it's up to about $7,000 or $8,000 a year or something you can earn. And then if you start getting further than that, they start asking questions, and they might put you on a 3-month work trial. So there's a number of things they could do if, and some people might want to be put on a work trial, to see if they could, if they start feeling better, depending on the circumstance.
Actually, one of the things you've said there is you've almost indicated to me that, in fact, actually, what these various programs do is they assume like that I'm going to be taking a job, i.e., that I'm going to work for the local. If I'm on the benefit program, if I am going to get a job, it's that I'm going to work for my local Hasty Mart or something of that nature.
Yeah, that's what they assume.
Not going to be self-employed. I'm not going to.
Be a computer programmer.
Yeah. Not going to be a self-employed computer programmer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this is one of the problems that happened with a case called Abby when she went into. She set up a business that was called Cancer Connection, and she wanted to set up a support network for people who've had cancer and their family members, so that they can seek counseling, transportation, support services, things like wigs, a whole bunch of things. So she set up a whole network of these people and would hire different subcontractors. As soon as ODSP found out what she was doing, they cut her off because she was making too much money, supposedly. And then she fought it, and she won because what happened was they were saying, well, she was running a complicated business. And then somebody at that hearing that she was in asked the director of ODSP what a complex business was. Well, anything that involves like where you have an employee, your subcontractors, or anything like that, it just gets complex. It's almost implying that people with disabilities, regardless of what type of disability you have, are only capable of doing less complicated businesses or jobs, which is really humiliating.
Yeah. And that really is quite humiliating.
And their employment programs are set up the same way too. So if you have a disability and you want to get a job, they'll set you with the job at that local Hasty Market or the local flea market before they would try to send you back to school so that you can become a doctor or social worker.
Yeah, I was going to say, because in fact, actually, one of the things you will get through ODSP and the like, and some of these benefits, is that you can actually go back to school and get a lot of your schooling funded.
Not all of it. There is certain benefits that you can access because, like, say, like your bursary program, and if you qualify for the disability tax credit, there's the bond that you can have for going to school, the education bond, things like that people could use. And then if you're going to school and it's an OSAP eligible program, you can also work. And if you're working, your income earnings, regardless of how much you make, are not counted against you. You have to be clean still, but be counted against you.
Yeah. And again, we've had this discussion. It's like, it appears obvious to me that in fact, you talked about clawbacks, and I'm like, why do we have clawbacks? It would seem a lot more, to my mind, it always seems a lot more beneficial if we were to actually provide these benefits on the basis that if you do manage to succeed, that come tax time, it doesn't mean that you're no longer disabled, but come tax time, if you succeed and you make a good income, then there'll be tax clawbacks that will ensure that many of your benefits will go back.
Yeah, then you just pay taxes at the time.
Yeah.
And this is the problem.
Why do they penalize the people at the point of the point of earning? And in fact, actually, for example, if you were earning, I talked to you about this example a couple of months ago. So you left school, or you're sorry, come summertime, hey, or even any other wherever you are, seasonal period. Great, the theatre's open. I can be a theatre extra for the next 6 months. It will get me $1,500 a month for the next 3 months, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's $1,500 is well over your clawback. It's $500 over your clawback. Mm-hmm. But again, now it's not over your entire clawback. And by the time you've accounted for it in your tax, there should be no penalty.
Right, exactly. There should be no penalty for you working, because in fact they should be encouraging people to work and getting out of poverty.
Yeah.
But they don't seem to be interested in getting people out of poverty, because their clawbacks start at such a low amount that
$1,000 is irrelevant, an irrelevant amount. If you earn $1,000, it's like, that's nothing these days.
You're $1,408 a month for an individual. You can earn $1,000 a month before clawback, so it's $2,408. You may be able to pay rent on an average apartment.
Yeah.
No food, nothing else.
Yeah.
So
all right, let's move away from the sore topic of ODSP and some of the issues around it. Let's move on to employment insurance. Employment insurance, obviously,
got to work enough hours to get it, because if you're an employee anywhere and you have what they call insurable earnings, okay, where you work and you get an income from, say, an employer, or if you're somebody who's self-employed who participates in a self-employed program, and if you put in enough hours, then you can collect, and it goes, I think, at 50% or 55% of your earnings. And
if you have an EI, I don't know that it goes on percentage of your earnings, or at least it never did when I collected EI.
It does. But they actually, during the pandemic, they've actually increased it during the pandemic, but I don't know whether they've lowered it or not. But I hope not, because people who, like, say if you're making quite a bit of money and then you got to go on EI, if you can get the maximum, why not?
Well, when I went on EI, I went from earning like 15 to 20,000 a month to EI at 800.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And then they think that
you think I can pay for my mortgage on 800?
No, right? They just think that you can just drop your standard of living as if you're going to be able to.
Yeah, and the assumption is, hey, you're going to sell your house and you're going to move away to somewhere cheap. But how can you move away? Let's use the Toronto example. When you've got when every home in Toronto is worth $2 million, where are you going to move to?
Yeah.
Because the homes elsewhere are not are probably running you the same ticket, and. And as soon as you move away, let's say that you do move away, you're going to Northern Ontario. Oh, guess what? You're not available for jobs anymore. Or you move to, some part of, somewhere like Halifax, Nova Scotia. Again, you're not available for jobs anymore, are you?
Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of thing. It's and EI too. If you leave the country, you could be penalized for that period of time that you're on EI.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And again, it doesn't really take into consideration, you get sick benefits, you get maternity benefits, you get parental benefits, you get some caregiver benefits. But essentially, you have to apply for those individually over and above EI.
Yeah. And you have to go yeah, if you get sick on the job, then you apply for that, or if you're pregnant, you want to take time off. So there's a lot of these things, and even a parental benefit, because there's a maternity benefit and a parental benefit. So both the husband and wife can both take time off.
Yeah.
Okay, so it helps in that way. And
Yeah.
the thing is, when you're self-employed, you don't have anything like that unless you pay into the program, and then you generally got to go back to work.
Well, and again, one of the things, I don't know, I don't know about everybody else's experience, but I'll tell you, when I'm out of work, I've got a full-time job looking for work.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm probably up at 6. I'm up earlier than when I wake up to go to work, because I've got to go through all of the job ads. I've got to send all the resumes out to those early morning jobs, right? Then I've got to follow up with them in the afternoon, and in between all of that, I'm going to slot in the interviews if I get them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a full-time job, and then I'm probably still doing it at 7 or 8 in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So don't tell me that's not hard work, and some of these, there are also some back to work programs out there that want to take you away from your home, in order to get you, considering how you're going to write resumes, etc.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no jobs, there's no jobs. I've been doing as much as I can do.
Yeah, like this is what happens if you get terminated from a job. You have to go and look for a job.
Yeah.
And even if you don't get a job, but you still have to make an effort.
Yeah. Okay, so the one thing that's a constant, whether we've got a job, whether you're on benefits or not, in Ontario, is the universal healthcare, the OHIP plan that we've got. So
Yeah.
OHIP is there. So you go into hospital. Well, I hope you're going to get an operation. You're going to get yourself your problem sorted out.
You can use your health card instead of your credit card.
As opposed to some other systems that we have around the world. So they will cover physician fees and the like.
Mm-hmm.
This is what many people refer to as the free health system that we get. I don't consider it free. I consider it those we get what we pay for.
Yeah, you get it covered, and it's universal coverage. And in some sense, it's not completely universal because there's many things that aren't covered, like physiotherapy. And there are some people that can get it, but it has to be ordered through a specific prescription. And then there's also eye doctors. You can get one every 2 years if you have certain conditions, or every year if you're diabetic. And then there's also chiropractic, where you can't get it anymore. You used to have it partially, at least, covered by OHIP. So there's a number of programs going out. Podiatrist used to be covered. Now it's no longer.
Mm-hmm.
These things have to be covered, but it's not covered. And people who don't have extra money end up going without. And for some people, it does reduce their quality of life.
Okay.
And their issue why they have to go there.
And let's look on to the next one, although this could take a program in and of itself, housing and homeless supports. We could easily cover. We could easily talk about that an entire 30-minute episode. So let's just whiz across that as best we've got.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, this covers things like rent geared to income housing allowances, emergency shelter
the COMAT program, COHOB, for Ontario, Canada housing benefit.
Yeah.
So there's different types of benefits, and working with a housing worker, they have ability to know where to access certain benefits, to help people stay in their homes. And then there's other programs that might help people in terms of getting out of it, although all I see them doing is building more shelters, which I don't think it's going to solve the homeless.
Well, and it's a political argument as to whether we go far enough, and that's, as I say, that's outside the scope of this particular thing.
Yeah.
But it is important to indicate that there is housing and homelessness support, and I'm not I'm not skipping over it in any way, other than to say that you have to consider it. If you're suffering it, let's talk about it. I don't want to make it a major part of this program, because we could run a program on that in itself. And the
And what
same
about old age? Child and family benefits is for
child
the
and family benefits, we could also run a whole program on that as well, right?
There's various child and family benefits that are out there.
So you've got Ontario child benefits, you've got childcare subsidies, you've got school nutrition programs, you've got family resource services, and a whole heap of other things.
And that's all the younger people and the families.
Yeah. And some of the actual support that we're talking about, when you've got a family on where the parents are on ODSP, it's actually the child support that is actually keeping those people housed.
Yep, exactly. They used to take that out completely off the ODSP.
Yeah.
But now they had, I don't know, they had a big fight in court and everything, and then eventually they just decided not to cut it back.
Yeah. All right. And as I say, we could easily cover that in a separate program as well, as we could seniors supports as well, because seniors, we've got Canada Pension Plan retirement benefits, old age security, guaranteed income supplement, seniors drugs program, home care services, community support programs. One of the things I would say is the drug program. I'm particularly aggrieved by the drug program, because I pay 3 times as much for my drugs as I ever did.
Yeah, but then you don't take any prescriptions.
I've hardly.
You're very glad for it.
I pay 100% of the cost of my drugs, whereas I used to pay $10 per prescription on average before. I'd much prefer to have I'd much prefer to pay $30 a year than $100 a year. Right.
But when you're on a lot of prescriptions, $10 each is a lot.
Yeah, I know. I'm an unusual person insofar as I don't have much in the way of prescriptions.
I think you're just like my grandfather. He always said that the only reason I stay healthy is I stay away from doctors and stay out of hospitals. But yet he ended up with strokes and everything else. I mean, it happened.
Well, I consider every day that I live without that kind of stuff as a positive day. The fact that tomorrow I could wake up in a coma.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that could happen, or you get hit by a bus, or who knows.
Yeah, exactly. And let's not dwell upon that. Okay. Moving on, the next category that we've got is community and non-profit support. So there's a number of things like food banks, mental health services, crisis intervention services, settlement services for newcomers, employment counseling services, domestic violence supports, that are all important within our communities.
Yeah, and these are community services for the most part that are free. Right? People can attend because they're usually community funded or nonprofit funded or government funded. United sometimes will pay some money for it. So there's a lot of different things that these organizations do. And what happens is somebody sees a need, so they form an organization, try to get money for it, and then try to run a program out of it.
And most food banks
run these programs when I was younger.
Yeah. And most food banks, for example, there's a requirement for the food bank of, that you've got to show your income level.
Yeah, which is why a lot of people stay away from them too.
Yeah.
Because they want to appear stable in the community, but when they go there, they're just embarrassed.
Yeah. The other thing is that, for example, mental health services are available to all. You don't have to be.
Yeah, exactly. The nice thing about it is that the mental health services are confidential, and you don't have to pay for them. They don't measure your income. Right? And like, even if you're a millionaire, you probably can just pay your counselor. But you still are welcome to go to the mental health association.
Yeah. And the other thing about that is also, I would think the crisis intervention is also one of these supports that available for anyone, irrespective of whether you're earning or on benefits.
Yeah. And this is like, we have something called COAST, where people who are suicidal or near suicidal and they're in a panic, they can call Coast and then they can get someone to come over there and talk to them. And then there's also people, if I see, because this is what happened. I actually saw someone trying to jump over the bridge. So what I did is we were with somebody, and one of the guys came over and he took him right down off the bridge and put him right on the sidewalk. And then I had somebody call Coast. And then Coast came very quickly, and then they took him in to the hospital to be assessed.
Yeah.
So
all right.
These are very good services to have.
Yeah. All right. So one of the last things really to cover with any of this is to really identify that are the challenges with the system? Yes, the system exists as it does, and not everybody, arguably not everybody who needs services gets services at the time they need the services.
Yeah.
I pointed out one or two issues as we were going through there, but on the whole, that's the idea that it's available to help people when they're most in need.
Yeah. And this is one of the things, like, you have to make sure, like, and this is always these balancing acts that governments, especially the government, is funding something. They want to make sure that it goes to people who need it the most.
Yeah.
Targeting is not always the best thing to do for some services. You have to be very careful, because what happens is another government takes over, and then that's a target for cut.
And the worst about some of these sort of things is that how lengthy the application processes can be.
Yep. That's why some people just don't want to do the disability tax credit, because it's very complicated for some people.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And no, but we'll leave the rest of that for, I think maybe that potentially also is another program in and of itself.
Right? They all could be a program on their own.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And each of them have their own appeal process where you can go and have it overseen or reviewed, and then sometimes there's an appeal.
And it all goes
ombudsman. There's lots of roles for different things. And unfortunately, that process is not sometimes as effective as it could be.
Yeah. And they all go through the Social Benefits Tribunal ultimately.
Yeah, social benefits. Well, ODSP and OW do.
Yeah.
And ACSD too. That's a child benefit for children with disabilities. For severe disabilities.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for actually giving us your attention on this particular show. If you need to contact Invictus Legal, you can do so at 905-688-5598, or you can email Angela with angela@weareinvictus.legal, or myself using peter@weareinvictus.legal. And we are invictus.legal is our website. And the last piece for us to leave with is this.
So what you heard today on Spin Legal, whether it's this show or others in this series, is not a legal advice. If you need specific legal advice, then please contact a paralegal or a lawyer who could help you out.
Yeah, and we'd like you to contact us, but and with some of these disability things, actually that person right there might well be one of the best people in Ontario to help you. Right?
You're pointing the other direction.
Sorry?
You're pointing the other direction.
I'm pointing in your direction on my camera, which is the one that goes out onto the show.
See, I think I'm pointing towards you, but I'm probably not.
I'm to your right.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're to my right. Anyway, we'll leave it at that, and we'll see. Wish everybody a good week, and we'll see you next week.